Miami has dropped 5 straight following Monday's loss to the Raptor, and there's no easy fix in sight. Is it the shooting, the defense, the lack of rebounding?
Maybe there's a big glaring hole on this roster.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang. Become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up to the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. We're going to zoom out and talk about whether this team is more like the one that started the season or if this losing streak is a better reflection of who this team is. We'll talk about all of that here in a second. But first, recording this after the Heat dropped their 5th straight game. They lose to the Raptors 106-96. David, it's the first time that the Heat have been held to less than 100 points all season. The offense continues to be a struggle during this streak. They were outscored 32-19 in the fourth quarter as the Raptors pulled away in this one. The missed shots at the rim and from three-point range continue to kill them on offense. And it just, to me, my takeaway again is it feels like they're missing an elite scorer who can carry this offense when shots aren't falling. When Simone Fontecchio can't hit a shot, this team loses. They are so reliant on role players making shots and frankly playing over their head that maybe we should stop being surprised when this offense starts to sputter. Not to put it all on Fontecchio, right? Norm Powell was off tonight. He was 5 of 15 overall. He did get to the free throw line a bunch. Bam had 20 points. He was pretty good. Kel'el Ware had his moments. Jaime Jaquez Jr. had his moments, but Tyler Herro, a late scratch before this game with that toe injury that continues to bother him. So he wasn't even involved in this game. He's now missed 3 of the 5 games that the Heat have lost here. But it just feels like they're missing that guy who, when everything else is going wrong, he can just sort of pull them into a win when they need it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Miami's offense caught everybody by surprise to start the season. And now that things have slowed down, both figuratively and literally, I think people are starting to figure out a little bit about what Miami is capable of and what they're trying to do offensively. And teams have found a way to counter that pretty effectively. And ultimately, what helps this team or what helps any team at the NBA level is really just being able to say that when things go south, you have a go-to player that can create something for you. And there isn't one on the roster. And for early on in the season, it looked like Norm Powell would be that player, playing the best he's ever been over the course of his career. And that was without Tyler Herro, who we've seen be capable of those moments as well. And neither of them have been particularly effective over the past few games. And look, Tyler's been fine in his comeback, and I think he's still kind of trying to figure his spots out. Powell has regressed a little bit, as you might imagine. But right now, you're kind of searching for answers. And it's a good point regarding Miami's role players. Fontecchio was shooting at a ridiculous level early in the season. Davion Mitchell was shooting extremely well. Jaime Jaquez caught everybody by surprise. All these things kind of working in tandem and working at such a high level. And now that things have regressed, there's no easy answer and no player that can just make things so much easier for the rest of the team and just be a go-to scorer that you can count on in clutch situations. Conversely, Toronto had that. Scotty Barnes was phenomenal in the fourth quarter. He just was very effective. And I wouldn't necessarily qualify him as that for most of the game. It looked like Brandon Ingram was going to be having an incredible night. But Barnes wound up taking over late in the game to kind of seal the deal for Toronto. And Miami just didn't have an easy answer for that.
So the shots at the rim, we discussed Miami's issues in detail at the end of last week. And one of the things we talked about was just missing shots at the rim. Andrew Wiggins, Jaime Jaquez Jr. in particular, have been missing a ton of shots, point blank at the basket, a lot of layups during this losing streak. And tonight they go 16 of 26. They convert 61.5% of their shots at the rim. That's in the 30th percentile of teams this season, according to Cleaning the Glass. That's bad. In other words, it sucks. And they need to be better at it. Again, from three, they continue to miss shots from three. They shot 29% from three-point range in this game, including 25% from the corner, right? The easy shots they're missing. The gimmies they're missing here. That ranks near the bottom of the league in percentile. They were 9 of 31 overall. I mean, the mid-range shots weren't falling either, but who cares at that point? Like, once you're missing the shots at the rim and shots at the three at that level, you got to be hitting 100% of your mid-range shots to be even in this game. So, the shots on goal and the three-point shooting slump, I think between the two things, it's the shots at the rim that concern me the most, David, because look, during the course of an 82-game season, your team's going to have cold stretches, and it's going to have hot shooting stretches like this Heat team had in the beginning of the year. But if you're consistently making the shots at the rim, then that's the way to combat that. But I don't know if it's this groin injury to Jaime Jaquez Jr. and Norm Powell that's been bothering them or whatever it is, but they're just not converting at the rim. And then you think about, okay, well, these shots aren't going in. It's one thing to miss threes, especially above the break threes, because you're already back. But when you're missing those shots at the rim, and now you're providing those runouts to the opponent, that's where you get into a lot of trouble in transition. And Toronto took Miami's lunch off of live rebounds in this game. They were getting out on the break over and over and over again after these misses, and that's really what I think is hurting Miami right now. In the age-old question of, well, did they lose this game because of poor defense, or did they lose this game because of poor offense? I think in this game it was very clear the offense was the problem.
Yeah, I suppose you could say that. There were, I think it's a good point. Like, I mean, certainly the missed shots at the rim really stood out to me. It felt like there was a sequence there late in the third quarter where I think Drew Smith missed a layup, and Andrew Wiggins got blocked by the rim after getting past the initial defender. And then there was something else like two possessions later. I think Jaime Jaquez missed a layup too. Maybe I'm misremembering the exact order there, but it just seemed like everybody was a repeat offender, struggling to make.
Yeah, that was either at the end of the third quarter or the beginning of the fourth quarter. It was 3 straight misses that led to 3 straight buckets for the Raptors. I remember it was the same thing, and that's sort of what spurred on that Raptors run in that fourth quarter and when they pulled away.
So it is tied. Like, I think you kind of are relying on both, because if you make those shots, then that kind of forces Toronto to have to slow down, inbound the ball. They can't just get up court quickly and catch a defense off guard. So, but at the same time, if you're missing those shots at the rim, transition defense does have to be a primary focus for this group. And I don't think that that's something that they are doing exceptionally well either. So I think it's connected, like, without a doubt. And maybe that's overly simplistic, but missing those shots and then not defending at a high level either was certainly a problem for Miami during the late game execution when they needed to be better. And they just allowed too many easy shots. I think Norm Powell got taken pretty easily. I can't recall exactly by who, but it felt like it was at a point there where Miami was either mounting a comeback. I think they had cut the lead down to maybe 6 or 7. And you're trying to build a little momentum, and he just gets absolutely blown by. And it just felt like that was disheartening. Like, it just seemed to take every bit of life out of this group. And from that point forward, it was just all Toronto. Miami never really had a response after that. So it's not to focus primarily on Norm, because I think there were other possessions like that. Like, defensively, I think there were certainly plenty of issues too. So everybody's at fault here. Like, if Miami had found a way to win this game, which clearly that was not the case, I don't know who to give credit cookies for, because everybody was equally terrible in this. Like, it just seemed like everybody really had moments where they struggled and just it didn't do things that they were supposed to, or that we have come to expect from this group this year.
One last note on the transition defense, because it has been a struggle for this team this season. When you play that wheel on offense, when you're playing this offensive system, think about where these guys are positioned. They oftentimes will have 3 players on their own baseline, right? You've got a guy in the dunker and 2 guys in the corner or somewhere thereabouts. That means there's only 2 guys really to get back. And that really kind of puts them in a tough spot with transition defense. And I think Spo might have to adjust some things. I don't really know. Again, but you don't want to make too many big, changes to a team when you're in the middle of a shooting slump that you think you're going to come out of. But I guess that's the real question, right? Will you come out of it, or is this the team? Is this just a slump, or is this more reflective of who this team is? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in the next segment here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props updating as guys start to heat up over the course of the game. And you can even bet the next touchdown scorer, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the games moves fast, and so can you. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen of the day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Heat with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Makes for a great Christmas present. Go to lockedonheat.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Worth mentioning before we move on, David, Nikola Jovic left tonight's game with a right elbow injury. That was a scary fall. Just seconds basically after checking in to a game early. He was going to be part of the rotation after not being part of the rotation the last several games. He went up for a dunk with the right hand, kind of landed awkwardly, then fell onto his right side. Wasn't really sure what the injury was. It looked like it could have even been maybe a concussion, the way that he fell, like his head snapped back. Was it a tailbone thing? But the stretcher comes out. They don't need it. He's able to walk off, but immediately his arm is in a sling or like a brace, really. And then he was ruled out for the rest of the game with a right elbow injury. He is going to miss some time here.
No doubt. Yeah, it was an ugly fall. At first, when he's falling, he lands directly onto his back. I thought it was like a lower back injury, to be honest with you. I thought it might be like a broken tailbone or something like that, or tailbone contusion. We saw a player tough as nails and Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, guys like that have missed a significant amount of time with a contusion there. And I thought that's what it might be. He probably does have an injury there just because of the impact of his fall. But then you kind of see where he lands directly on his arm, and just that you can tell where that would be a pretty bad injury. So you hope for the best and a speedy recovery, and maybe he can work his way back. Unfortunately, just another season that hasn't gone the way Nico had hoped it would.
So the Heat have not won a game since December 1st. We've got credit cookies just stale in the oven that I thought we were going to be handing out since December 1st. It begs the question, David, is this team what we saw earlier in the season when they took the league by storm and looked like a borderline contender in the Eastern Conference? Or are they more like the team we've seen the last couple of weeks during this 5-game losing streak?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I hate to be a prisoner of the moment because I think we were so enthusiastic about what we saw in the start of the season. And it did feel like Miami was just going to have not historically good offense necessarily, but we knew that there would be low points over the course of an 82-game season, and that teams would find a way to defend them a little bit more tightly and everything else like that. But there was a sense of sustainability. I think it's easy to just say, "Oh, that was absolute, improbable or unsustainable or something like that." Now, but at the time, it did feel like this was just something that they could continue to build off. And maybe it's to the same point that you made earlier, that they were getting these above their weight kind of productions from role players like Jaime, Fontecchio, etc. Pelle Larsson was coming off the bench. He started and he wound up playing great minutes there. Kel'el wound up getting some minutes with Bam's absence due to injury, and he wound up playing great. And now it just feels like nobody's having these moments. So it's hard not to look at what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. I mean, that's a pretty incredible statistic there, that they haven't found a way to win in 2 weeks. And I know that's because of the longer gap during the NBA Cup and everything else like that, but they've just struggled. They haven't looked good. Even leading up to this 5-game losing streak, they had to have some rough spots there too. And I feel like this is more what this team is like. And I hate saying it because I don't want to be the kind of person that flip-flops in my perception of this team, but I was enthusiastic about this group. And then having seen what this group is like, where the role players, maybe they were just role players and maybe the expectations were unfair. And maybe, a lot, as we talked about when we kind of reviewed Tyler and his impact to this team, whether or not he was to blame, as a lot of fans have cited, it's just everything has coincided so perfectly. It's just been a real bad stretch for these guys who have struggled in their roles, have not been able to hit from the perimeter, have not been able to hit at the rim, and haven't been able to defend at the same level. So I'm kind of feeling like this is more like the team that it really is. And and I hate saying it, but I think that's just a reality that just maybe what we saw earlier was more of a mirage than I'd like to admit. But it doesn't feel fair to ask guys like Powell, Fontecchio, Larsson, etc., to continue to produce at the same high level that they did earlier in the season for a full 82 games. And they're still missing that kind of consistency. That's why they're role players. Nobody on this roster is a true 1A superstar. And that's the reality. And we've known this. And I think the Heat know this. But yet you were having everybody play in such perfect harmony and producing at such a high level that it felt like maybe that was something they could continue to build off. But now that other teams have figured it out and they've run into some solid defenses, and it just has coincided again with their struggles offensively as they try to incorporate Tyler, as guys have gone out due to injury, etc. They don't look like a good team. And right now, even what the off the court stuff, like the idea they had the intangibles. Like this group felt like there was a purpose there. They were playing with joy. They were playing with energy. They were playing with purpose. I haven't seen that. I've seen this team kind of get punched in the mouth by the Orlando Magic during the NBA Cup and not finding a response. You could say the same thing in today's loss in Toronto. Like Toronto, after several days of rest, should not have come to Miami and beaten this team on their home floor. There should have been an answer emotionally at the very least. And I didn't see that effort. I didn't see any kind of sense of urgency. I didn't see any sort of intensity whatsoever. And so I kind of think that this team has just said, oh, you know what? Maybe who we were is this. And who we were at the beginning of the season, that was nice. That was fun. But that was hard to do and to sustain. And so we're kind of just happy being a mediocre group all over again. God, I hate saying that. But that's what it feels like. It really does. Like it sucks. Like I feel like I don't want to be that negative, but I'm looking at this group and I just don't see the kind of intensity that we saw and witnessed over the first few weeks of the season.
I still haven't found the team that plays with joy and intensity during a 5-game losing streak. Right? It's very easy to say that team doesn't look like it's having fun when they're losing games. But your point of the kind of the not fighting back and maybe wishing that there was a little bit more fight from this team. There is a little bit of a, oh, here we go again kind of thing going on with this team. And it does remind me of the long losing streak from last season after the Jimmy Butler trade. But I think that's natural. And I think that's going to, you eventually come out of it. Just like the team did last year, you eventually come out of that stuff, right? You can only win games by playing more games, and they'll eventually get off the schneid here, something we'll talk about here in a second. But in terms of whether or not this is the team, what is the more accurate reflection of this team? The one from the beginning of the year or the one during this 5-game losing streak? I have some numbers for you. So before the 5-game losing streak, this team was shooting 48.3% overall and 38% from three-point range. And they were outscoring teams by an average of 5.2 points per game. That would have ranked 9th in overall field goal percentage, 4th in three-point field goal percentage, and 8th in point differential. Okay? Do we really think this team was the 9th most efficient scoring team in terms of field goal percentage in the league? Do we really think that this team was the 4th best 3-point shooting team by percentage in the league? Probably not. That seems a little bit high for this roster, right? So here's where they've ranked and their percentages over this 5-game losing streak. They've dropped to 44.8% field goal percentage. That's 28th in the NBA.
Yeah.
They've dropped to 29% from 3-point range. That's dead last by a mile in the NBA. And they've dropped and they're losing games by an average of 9.2 points per game during this losing streak. That's 28th in the NBA. So I ask the same question. Do we really think this is the 28th most efficient offense by field goal percentage in the league? No. Based on this roster, they're better than that. Do we think they are the worst 3-point shooting team in the league? No. Based on this roster, they're better than that. Do we think they're 28th in point differential? No. Based on this roster and this coaching staff and everything we know this team to be, they're better than that. So, as it is most of the times, the truth is somewhere in the middle. You're never as good as your best stretch, and you're never as bad as your worst stretch. And weirdly enough, David, I think we've seen this team's best stretch, and I think we're currently living the worst stretch, and we really haven't seen the middle stretch. We haven't seen where this team actually is, which is why I think this question is a question, and it's why this team is so confusing. They went from their best stretch, arguably, to their worst stretch in a blink. I don't think we've seen them at water level just yet. And that's what I think is so confusing about this team. I eventually, I think everything will readjust and this team will level out. And they won't be quite as good as they were at the start of the year, but they're not going to be as bad as they are now. Anything else on this before we get to some listener questions in the next segment? You're muted.
What does leveling out look like then? Like, what is just somewhere in the middle? Not as bad as what we see, not as good as what we've seen. It's just so back to being kind of mediocre. Not bad necessarily, not good, just mediocre.
I think if you start making more of your threes, again, if you're not 4th in the league, for example, right? If you're not 4th in the NBA in 3-point shooting rate, but you're not 30th, okay, well, let's say you're 15th, right? Let's just say you're right there smack in the middle. You're not getting as many runouts. You're not giving as many runouts and transition opportunities to your opponent. Your defense is a little bit better because of it. I think that's what it looks like. It doesn't look quite as frustrating. I think if you're the Heat, you're not in your head as much because you're missing seemingly every 3-pointer that you put up, and you're able to play with a little bit more of that energy and joy that we talked about. So, yeah, I think that's what it looks like. It looks like not losing to Toronto at home after a 4-day break or whatever it was. That's what I think it looks like.
Fair enough.
Coming up next, we get to your listener questions. Plus, when will the Heat win their next game? We'll look at that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Skims. When Skims announced they were making underwear for men, the reaction made perfect sense. People have been talking about Skims comfort for years. Most guys, though, they stick to whatever they've been buying since college. The same fits, the same waistbands, that roll, and a whole lot of settling. But Skims Men has changed that. One upgrade, and it's obvious why everybody's been talking. Once you try Skims men's underwear, you'll get the hype immediately. They're designed to feel good, to fit right, and to actually stay put. No slipping, no sagging, no adjusting. Just genuinely great underwear that makes you feel confident and comfortable. I don't know which brand you'll like best, but you know what? You try the Boxer Brief, and right away, what stands out is the fit and the fabric. It's soft, supportive, it's comfortable all day. They don't ride up or lose their shape, and they hit exactly where they're supposed to. And whether you're working, traveling, working out, just hanging out at home, or running any errands that you have to, those feel better than anything you're used before. You honestly won't expect underwear to be a game changer, but Skims can completely surprise you. So shop Skims Men's now at skims.com. It's the holidays. It's a perfect time to get a gift for somebody. Skims Men's. And when you place your order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select our show from the drop-down to let them know we sent you. Today's episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. The holidays always show up faster than we expect. And if you're still putting together gifts or last-minute decor or getting your home ready for guests, well, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home, with decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, and gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easy. Their selection is huge. Bedding, decor, kitchen gear, kids' room updates. I was able to find everything in one place. I needed to make some upgrades, and guess what? I found everything I was looking for at Wayfair. It's easy to shop there. You just scroll through so many different options. Whatever your style is, whatever your budget is, whatever filter you're looking for, you can just set that. And guess what? You'll have plenty of options that fit your budget and your style. That's what makes it so convenient. It's perfect for gifting too. They've got guides, tons of options, and something for everyone on any budget. There's no delivery fees, no stress. It's the best way to get your home holiday ready without running around to different stores. So get last minute hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Thank you to everybody who sent in questions for the post-game show. If you want to join the Locked On Heat Insider community, you can do so with the link in the show notes to ask questions for post-game shows just like this. But before we get to the listener questions, David, I have a question of my own. Thursday night's game in Brooklyn, is that a must-win for this Heat team? I hate even thinking about it in that regard, but after that game in Brooklyn, a bad Nets team that's been playing better lately, but come on, they're a bad Brooklyn Nets team. After that, it's at Boston, at the Knicks, at home against this Raptors team you just lost to, and then in Atlanta. That could be 10 straight games, a 10-game losing streak. That would be really rough. Brooklyn is the best chance for the Heat to get their next win.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a must win because things can change. I would say that it's a win that you need to get back on track and to feel your mojo again. You need to get back to what it is that you were doing well and continue to build off that because you're going to enter that tough stretch. So I guess in that sense, it is kind of a must win. You need it. You need to be able to remember your identity, remember your purpose because I don't know that you're going to find it against tougher competition. I can't believe the Nets are a must win.
I do like how you framed it. It's not a must win, but it's a need to win.
It doesn't like a must win feels like your whole season kind of hinges on it. And I still think it's too early for that. Like Miami could go on that 10-game losing streak and still wind up figuring it out. No. I don't think it's that dire, but it's just, to me, it's kind of like, it's a game you need to remember who you are offensively and defensively and be able to build off that because you're going to be facing tougher challenges. Like I that's what stands out to me most about this group is that they've lost that kind of confidence that they had early on. When we looked at this group and we're like, oh, wow, this is what winning feels like. This is what a team that remembers that they can do these things with joy, with kind of the idea that they're good enough to figure it all out, et cetera. And then that they won't just blow these late game leads the way that they did last year. Well, I don't have that confidence anymore. I ain't even going into this Nets game, and I don't know that they can beat the Nets. I think a lot of these games that they've lost over the last 5 games have been winnable, and yet this Miami team just hasn't found a way to respond. And that's my biggest problem with it. Is all the things we're seeing on the floor, the defense, the offense, et cetera, that all makes sense. And yet I'm just looking at this group and I don't see them kind of just fighting with the same urgency that we did earlier in the season.
If they make 29% of their threes again, they're probably going to lose that game in Brooklyn.
Fair enough.
It's just, I don't know what they got. And if they keep missing if they keep missing layups, they're probably going to lose that game. If they're not getting back in transition, they're probably going to lose that game. So it's not a must win. You're right. It's too early, right? It doesn't, like, if they lose to Brooklyn, it doesn't mean this team is not making the playoffs, but it's like a mush win. I don't know.
I really should win. How about
that? Really, you ought to win this one. Cody writes in, is Kel'el Ware back in the doghouse? It's tough to watch him get little fourth quarter run later in the game with Fontecchio playing 26 minutes to Ware's 19. I see where you're going, Cody, with this. Like, why is Fontecchio, with all of his struggles, playing more minutes than Kel'el Ware? It's a positional thing. It's the fact that Tyler Herro was a late scratch and they elevated Fontecchio to the starting lineup. I don't think that has anything to do with Fontecchio. I think that's more Erik Spoelstra trying to keep his rotations intact and being like, well, Fontecchio is sort of on the fringe of the rotation. Let's just elevate him to the starting lineup, and that way we keep the bench unit basically in place, especially if he was thinking. I mean, Spo did say that Nico had a good few days of practice. So maybe if Tyler Herro were healthy, the plan was always going to be playing Nico over Fontecchio. But then when Herro was a late scratch, you elevate Fontecchio into that starting lineup, keep the bench unit intact. So that's where that is. Where's 19 minutes? I mean, I don't know why people act like Kel'el Ware was playing 30 minutes per game at some point this year. He's the backup center. 19 minutes is a lot for a backup center. That said, I would like to see more minutes of him and Bam on the court together. We really only saw it for 2 or 3 minutes in the first half, and that was it.
Yeah. I don't think conditioning is an issue. I don't think he's in the doghouse necessarily. Like I think Spo has had maybe a quicker hook than he should have. But I don't think it's the same thing as a doghouse. Like a player truly in the doghouse won't even see the floor. Like what we saw from Nikola Jovic over the last few weeks. Like that's a player in the doghouse, and not even necessarily in a bad way. He didn't rise to the challenge, and I don't think Ware has been put there. And I think Spo and the coaching staff still recognize he has value as a team's backup center. They do need a big out there, and there are no other options after Bam Adebayo. So I think Ware's going to continue to get playing time. Maybe he's just being a little guarded for a reason. I don't know. It's something that we'll have to ask him next time we talk to him.
Carlos writes in, is Giannis really going to want to come to this team? Yes. Yes. I think Giannis looks at himself as the savior. How about that?
Is this group, I mean, and whatever players are left on this roster following any trade, any theoretical trade, we should mention that for Giannis, is that better than what the Bucks currently have on that roster? Bobby Portis, Miles Turner, Gary Trent Jr.?
I think so. But this is why it's good that Giannis is injured almost, because it gives the Heat a couple more weeks to get out of this slump here and start playing good basketball by the time, because I don't think anybody's going to trade for Giannis until they see him out there on the court after what that injury looked like. Another listener writes in, what happened to that other team? The one that was winning and having fun. They're definitely not having fun now, and neither am I watching them. A little bit like what we were talking about earlier, David, but like I said, I still have yet to find the team that plays with a ton of joy in the midst of a 5-game losing streak. Shots will start going in. They'll start winning games. I think you'll start seeing some of that joy back with this team.
Yeah. I think we talked about that. I'm glad to see that a lot of those same questions are aligning with our thought as to whether or not this team was one version or the other, because it's just been such a strange departure. Like, they were the talk of the NBA. They caught everybody by surprise, and now it's like, oh, okay, this is who we thought they were. So maybe you're right. Maybe that's the more sensible approach, is just to say it's probably something in the middle.
Malachi writes in, is it time to worry about the season, or is it still too early? It's early to worry about the season, but I think it is fair to look at the Eastern Conference standings. In terms of whether or not they're going to miss the playoffs, I wouldn't worry about that right now. But you don't want to lose ground on some of these teams that are sort of in the same spot as you.
Yeah. You got to figure it out. You got to figure it out and try to just... Treading water isn't enough. Like, you want to... I thought this team was going to, again, be different. Like, I thought they were in the standings. They were winning. They were beating opponents the way that we had seen them kind of build towards something. And now, with the East as wide open as it is, you don't want to lose too much ground. I think that's just essential for this group.
That'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Heat. Make sure you're subscribed. Follow Locked On Heat so you get all of the latest episodes. Find us on Twitter and on Instagram at Locked On Heat. Did Locked On Heat make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA.